Migration is not the finish line. Once identity moves to Microsoft Entra ID, you need visibility, fast diagnosis, and repeatable operations. In this module, we'll turn logs, signals, and runbooks into a practical troubleshooting system. So far, we've moved from understanding Active Directory to designing Entra ID, implementing hybrid identity, migrating devices and apps, and applying strong security controls. Now the focus shifts from migration to operations, keeping the identity environment monitored, supported, reliable, and ready for troubleshooting after go-live. After migration, monitoring becomes an operating discipline, not a one-time validation. You are checking whether people can sign in, receive the right access, stay compliant on managed devices, and get provisioned into the apps they need. You are also watching for change, sync health, conditional access behavior, security alerts, and privileged administrative actions. The goal is to define normal patterns first, then alert on meaningful deviations. When something breaks, teams need clear ownership and escalation paths, so blocked access, suspicious sign-ins, and sync failures are resolved quickly. Think of Entra ID troubleshooting as choosing the right lens. Sign-in logs explain access attempts, who tried to sign in, to which app, from where, with what method, and why the result happened. Audit logs explain change, who modified a policy, application, user, group, or setting, and when. Provisioning logs track lifecycle movement into apps or directories, which helps when accounts or groups are missing or mismatched. Sync and health portals focus on the plumbing, agents, connectors, synchronization errors, and service health. Start with the operational question, then choose the source built to answer it. For a user who cannot sign in, begin with scope. Who is affected, which app is involved, and what time window matters. Then filter the Entra sign-in logs to remove noise. Open the relevant events and inspect the status, failure reason, error code, client app, resource, IP address, location, device, and authentication requirement. Compare failed attempts with nearby successful ones. Patterns often reveal the cause, such as legacy authentication, conditional access blocking, expired credentials, or MFA problems. Finally, validate the fix with a new successful sign-in and confirm the risk details look normal. An access denied message is only the starting point. Treat the sign-in record as a chain of evidence. The failure reason gives you the broad category: bad password, MFA not completed, conditional access block, or non-compliant device. The error code gives you a searchable reference for Microsoft documentation and escalation. The correlation ID connects the user's error to Entra logs, application telemetry, and support investigations. Capture the exact time, time zone, user, app, client, browser, device, request ID, and correlation ID. Precision turns guesswork into root cause analysis. If a user cannot reach an app, use the sign-in log to separate where the failure occurred. First, confirm the request reached Entra ID. Then review every conditional access policy evaluated for that sign-in. A policy may succeed, fail, not apply, be disabled, or run in report-only mode. If access was blocked or interrupted for MFA, determine whether the issue was authentication itself or an authorization decision from policy conditions. Verify scope carefully: users, groups, apps, locations, platforms, and device state. Before changing enforcement, use report only and what if to predict impact. Audit logs show the change history behind your identity environment. They capture updates to users, groups, applications, service principals, roles, policies, and authentication methods. The key questions are simple: who made the change, what object or property changed, when it happened, and whether it succeeded. That context is critical for incident response, compliance reviews, privileged access monitoring, and change management. If users suddenly lose access, compare recent audit events with sign-in failures. A new conditional access rule or role assignment may explain the issue quickly. Dashboards turn identity logs into operational decisions. Instead of asking teams to search through raw events, surface signals like failed sign-ins, MFA failures, risky users, sync errors, blocked conditional access, and privilege changes. Match the tool to the job. Microsoft Entra for identity operations, Defender for security investigation, log analytics, and Azure Monitor for queries and metrics, and Sentinel for correlation and response. Alerts need careful thresholds. Too loose and incidents are missed. Too noisy and people ignore them. Build views for each role so every team sees what requires action. In a hybrid identity model, synchronization is the control plane that keeps users, groups, attributes, and passwords consistent across directories. Monitor each cycle for success, but also look deeper. Import errors, export errors, object joins, attribute flows, and password hash sync or write-back issues. With Entra Connect Sync, Connect Health helps surface service health and sync failures. With Cloud Sync, watch agent status, provisioning logs, scoped objects, and configuration health. Treat failures as urgent. A broken sync path can block onboarding, delay access changes, disrupt group membership, or prevent password updates from reaching the right place. When a new hire cannot access Microsoft 365, avoid guessing across the whole sync engine. Start with the provisioning log for that object. Did it create, update, skip, quarantine, or fail? The action usually points to the next question. A duplicate proxy address, invalid UPN suffix, overlong attribute, or filtered scope points to source data or sync rules. Anchor, join, mapping, or permission errors point to connector configuration. Classify the failure as source data, sync configuration, target constraint, or app provisioning rule. Then fix it and add validation to prevent recurrence. Sync agents are production infrastructure in a hybrid identity environment. Treat them that way. Monitor connectivity, service account status, certificates, network reachability, and server resources before users notice an outage. Alerts should fire when sync services stop. Agents go inactive, exports repeatedly fail, password sync breaks, or provisioning enters quarantine. Also document hidden dependencies, outbound access, proxies, TLS inspection, domain controllers, and time sync. Finally, define escalation by severity and business impact. An identity alert affecting many users should never wait in a generic operations queue. Good identity troubleshooting starts by narrowing the problem before changing anything. Ask whether it affects one user or many, one application or several, and whether device, location, or network patterns appear. Then collect evidence, timestamps, screenshots, sign-in logs, audit events, correlation IDs, device state, and recent changes. Use that evidence to isolate the layer, such as credentials, MFA, conditional access, compliance, sync, assignment, or connectivity. Remediate with the smallest safe action. Retest from the user's perspective and document the root cause, so the next incident is faster. A runbook turns identity troubleshooting into a repeatable operating procedure. For common scenarios like onboarding, offboarding, password resets, MFA issues, device problems, access requests, or privileged role changes, define the trigger, required information, tools, steps, approvals, and validation. Include rollback options and clear escalation criteria, so teams know when to stop and ask for help. Keep these procedures versioned and tested. Align them with least privilege, conditional access policy, audit evidence, and security requirements. So fast, support does not become uncontrolled access. Successful migration does not end when users can sign in. It depends on operating with visibility. Combine sign-in, audit, provisioning, and sync health logs to understand the full identity path. Use error codes, failure reasons, conditional access results, and correlation IDs to troubleshoot with evidence. Then capture fixes in runbooks, so operations stay consistent as you optimize and prepare for the capstone.